Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Buckle Up with Simon and Brian, an ultra running conversation. Simon, how are you doing?
I'm actually doing so good right now. I think I've been racing for so long that I forgot the good feeling of a good training block, and that's what I'm living
What?
right now. It's just great. It's like I
What?
make a
A
training
training
plan
block?
and I do it, and I feel I'm getting stronger. So it's an incredible feeling, really. And even better than that, Nora has had her injury, her ankle injury, a few months ago. Pretty bad injury. She could barely walk at first, and now we've started a little bit on trail, a little bit of jogging. So finally seeing the progress, and obviously she hasn't been sitting around on the couch not doing anything. She's been doing a lot of PT, a lot of exercise. So seeing that is finally paying off is a great feeling and a great prospect for next year. But how about yourself, Brian? How are your knees?
My knees are good. My Achilles is actually pretty good too. I did get a prognosis. I have like a Raglan's deformity, which is fairly common in runners, maybe somewhat common, maybe a looser term. But so I got some insight to that. I did get a ultrasound on it and went through the process. So yeah, nothing that I didn't know, but it's always good to get those things checked out. It's obviously some rest will help, but being mindful of it and maybe some consideration of different shoe choices with
Mm-hmm.
different style heel cups, and the heel cup being the most significant part of the whole deal with the Raglans because it's irritating the back of my Achilles. The tendon has overgrown and made a stronger anchor than it was intended to have, and so that's made a bump, a pump bump is another term for it. But anyway, I'm working through that process, getting back to a little bit of structured training myself, getting into some training. I've taken quite a few weeks off, but easy running. I did a swim today and actually swam a half a mile, which I impressed myself actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big swimmer, but to get in the water and kind of throw down with some old ladies, I was lapping those old ladies in the lap lane today.
It's for me, swimming is very humbling because that's exactly right. I see. I mean, you focus on the old ladies. I focus on the grandpa that is, not exactly in great shape, but swims twice as fast as me. Was swimming when I arrived at the pool doing laps, and when I'm done, he's still doing it. He hasn't slowed down. I was like, maybe I'm not in such great shape. So, yeah, good to see you're doing some cross training, and it's the right time of the year, right, to solve all of these issues like you've mentioned. We have time before 2025 and the racing season. I'm curious, have you started thinking about what you're going to do next year?
Oh, I sure have. Just one last point is exactly right. Those old ladies were there when I got there, and they were there when I left.
They're
So,
probably still there right
yeah,
now.
well, the pool closed just a few hours ago, so I'm sure they got kicked out. But they were probably there way longer than I was,
Mhm.
so they might have been going slower, but they probably swam 3 or 4 times farther than I did. Yeah, I am thinking about 2025. Obviously, lotteries always play a big role in the structure of our seasons, and I did throw my name in the hat for the obvious Western States and Hard Rock, which will come out pretty quickly here, December 7th or 9th. It's one of those two. I think it might be December
Mm.
7th is the lottery for those two. And they kind of set the stage for the rest of the season for a lot of us. I'm sure you're in those mixes as well. And I do have some other thoughts, though. I want to run like a little quicker marathon, a road marathon. So I'm
Mhm.
thinking about running one here in Colorado in May. And I was thinking actually going to a race that you were at last year, which was Jackpot Ultra on
Mm.
Valentine's Day, just outside of Vegas. So just to kind of get out of some snow.
What
And
does your wife think about that?
well, it's funny that you asked that because I, I thought we'd just have a grand old time. I asked her if she wanted to go to Vegas for Valentine's Day. And she was all excited for a couple seconds. And then she said, "Is there a race there?"
Maybe.
And I'm like,
Oh well.
well, yeah, there is a race, but
That's
um,
great.
how
I'm
about
curious, a
yourself?
guy like
What's
you,
up? Yeah, go ahead.
what's your marathon time, or what are you aiming for?
A couple years ago, I had I was probably like 306, I think, was my
Hmm.
PR. So I was trying to shoot for a sub three. I'm not sure if I'll do it here in Colorado, in Fort Collins at the Colorado Marathon, come May. I've been a pacer before. I've paced the event before as a pace group lead runner for the 4 hour group two times. That's a really rewarding experience, a lot of fun. So I do know the course. I just haven't ran it faster than 4 hours because of the work I was doing for that event. Um, but it is. There's a lot of descending in it, a little bit more than I would like actually. And of
Oh,
course that makes
okay.
for fast times, but it's not like a steady run out. It's pretty steep, quite honestly. There's a lot of pitches where you're almost having a break, as
Hmm.
opposed to like roll fast. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'd like to break the 3 hour mark someday. Someday sooner than later because I'm only getting older, and my knees
Yeah.
are getting bad apparently.
No, I mean I'm checking every time, and you always say they're good. So you're stable. You're good. You have a few more years, but yeah, sub 3 hours would be amazing. I cannot even dream of doing that, or I guess I can dream of doing that, but I know that it's too fast for me. I break down way before that. So interesting. Cool.
It is a different type of event.
Hmm.
It almost hurts. I mean, it hurts like 100, but different. Obviously, like it's a lot of
Very
pounding.
different.
Short. I mean, short in the fact that it's 3 hours, hopefully, or just slightly over, just slightly under. But what about
Yeah,
yourself,
and
Simon? I know
I
you.
feel the
Yeah.
impact is like exponentially worse for me. I've come close to having the pace to do that and like doing half marathon in that kind of pace, but every time I sustain that in training for too much, then I start getting injuries, and then I need to slow down again. So maybe if I was smarter with the training plan about it, I would have been able. But it really felt like I was kind of touching the limit of what my body can take in terms of speed before having issues. Whereas long distance running, especially when doing 200, you're walking, you're sleeping, you're taking care of yourself. I've never had the same type of issue really. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There is. It's the same muscle group. Typically, road marathons or pavement marathons are fairly flat, or very little undulations. There's probably some exceptions, but generally, road marathons are based around the fact that people are trying to go fast. So it's
Mhm.
not a variation. You're not going uphill and downhill and changing muscle groups by hiking and running downhill and hiking up the hill. There's not much variation in there. So there's a lot of repetitiveness in there as well.
Yeah.
Simon, how about yourself? What's on the plan for 2025 for you? I know you must be thinking about it and putting stuff on the calendar. What's it look
Yeah,
like?
yeah. I I have one idea that I think I should share because I don't think I can actually do it if I don't share it and find a way. But I have Arizona Monster, as you know, and I was thinking, I could add Cocodona, like that would be fun. But when I said that, then someone said maybe you should do Moab 240. I was like, yeah, yeah, Moab 240 would actually make a lot of sense. And I was like, fuck it. I should do the triple crown. Really, that's next year would be the best year for me to do the triple crown. I think in the future it would be more difficult for me to do it actually. So timing wise would be perfect next year. Um, registration was in May of last
Yeah.
year, so I may have missed the window, but I don't know if they have extra spot for that. So yeah, I need to hire some lobbyist to lobby with Candice and let me in, um, because that would be pretty epic, right? To do
It would be the
Cocodona
slam though.
Monster.
It'd be a slam almost. I mean, or even be a five fecta.
It would be five, and like let's say it. I was thinking if I do that, I want to have either Swiss 360 or Tour des Géants also. So that would be like that would be the year of 200s for me, and then I would see if I do hundreds or not here and there just as training. But yeah, I think it would be pretty epic. And one of the things that would be pretty cool with that is that I'm assuming you're thinking of doing Leadville next year, and I definitely want to be physically there when you get that 10-year buckle. So I was thinking, do I actually want to be racing it, or do I want to see that you finish? So yeah, I've been thinking skipping Leadville might actually be smart, and that would actually match pretty well with the fact that I think it's I think it's Bigfoot that is like a week before Leadville, so there's kind of a conflict a little bit, making it kind of make sense for the Triple Crown next year if I would do that. But I honestly don't know if they have a rolling kind of wait list or something on that, so I need to check it up. But it's something I've been thinking for what, at least 12 hours.
At least 12 hours.
Yeah, well,
It's set in
not
stone.
nonstop.
It's
like
out there. Now it's out there in the
yeah,
in the podcast world, and now it's out in the cosmos. Everyone
yep,
knows
yep.
now.
It's one of the idea. Otherwise, I have like a pretty extensive list of hundreds almost every month that I was thinking, that would be pretty cool to do this one. Some of them are races I've done before, but a lot of them are new races that I think would be exciting to try and also bring people along on YouTube on these movies, discovering new race, because I love doing the same over and over sometimes, but I also love to do new ones. And there's quite a few that I've been curious for a few years that it feels next year would be a good year too. So either way, a pretty exciting year coming up. I'll try to finalize this pretty soon and share it with people because, cool adventure. But in the meantime, I'm training, good training hard
Do you
and getting
train?
stronger.
Yeah, so you're in the SoCal area. Do you train with a run group there or anything? Do you do any group runs
I
in the
should
area?
start doing that. We've been on the road so much, Nora and I, that it never really made sense for us to bother with that. There was a small group that we were meeting once a week, but we met like twice or three times. But now that we're going to be here for a few weeks in a row, it would actually make sense to find group runs, but I wouldn't know where to look for that.
Well, that's a great segue because Kris Cargile, our guest today, has created an app for us. It's called grouprunfinder.com, Simon, and it knows your location based on your phone or your internet connection of some sort, and you plug in. I was playing with it yesterday, but you plug in like 10K, and it pulls up all the 10K group runs. It'll tell you Tuesday night's run, the time, the location. I think it has the group leader's name, so you could, hey Steve, I'm Brian, right? You kind of introduce yourself, that thing, the connection, and it seems like it, at least in the Denver area where I live near. It seems like there's quite a few options in the Denver area. I go over there quite a bit in the winter, so I might try to give it a whirl, and I also might add in my local run here in the Western Slope through Independence Run at Hike. We have a Thursday night group run. What do you think? You think that may be something that would, you'd benefit from when you travel?
Most definitely. I think also being on the road quite often, then I end up running random routes by myself that sometimes is not necessarily the most exciting place. It's just that I know I won't get lost, and it would be nice to meet local runners too. So both when I'm traveling, but even when I'm around here, I haven't had the time to look into that. So having a kind of agglomerate of everything that is happening would actually be super helpful for sure.
Yeah, I think of the times like where I did a shakeout run down the side of the interstate, for 20 minutes and then turned around and came back on myself. It was like the worst run ever, and maybe if I connected with a group, I could have had a better experience. They could have showed me their cool little park or, their cool running store that I didn't find on my own. So Kris Cargile is our guest today. It was really great to connect with him. I've known Kris for quite a few years, since about 2019. We helped another runner do the FKT on the collegiate loop, and that's how I met Kris. We were both supporting roles on her attempt, which she was successful at. Of course, we know what happened the following year in 2020, and that course, that FKT went to smithereens pretty quickly because everyone was out doing FKTs in 2020. So, but otherwise, Kris Cargile, check it out, grouprunfinder.com. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and thanks for tuning in. Hey, Kris, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing this evening?
Doing great, guys. Super stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Kris, I wanted to talk about your history in sport a little bit. That's usually where we start with all of our guests. Just kind of like get a backstory of how you found yourself in this niche ultra running world space, and then dive a little bit into what you're currently up to.
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of a long story how I got here, but I got involved in running kind of late in life. Um, so went through a really kind of ugly divorce and came out of a pretty toxic relationship, and um, man, I was just physically and emotionally and spiritually just kind of broken. And there was I was trying to find a way to kind of get back in shape, and um, there was a kung fu school down the street from my house, like half a mile from the house, and like, well, maybe I'll go do some kung fu, and I can walk there, and you know, give me some exercise. And there was a group of guys at the kung fu school they had a run group, and they were running after they trained, and so I begged and pleaded to run with those folks, and that's kind of what got me started running. And man, I hated every second of it in the beginning. It just hurt so bad. And I ran with those guys for a couple of years, and eventually, I could see it. I could see it working. I mean, I was trying to get fit, and then after a while, I just started to like it, and signed up for a couple races, and that just turned into. I mean, how it goes, right? It just kind of cascaded from there.
How long did it take you to kind of switch from I hate this to I don't hate this anymore?
Probably a year. It's probably a year of just out there, just doing it, trying to keep up with everyone, and yeah, it's probably a year. And it's funny, I was dating a girl at the time she wasn't a runner, but she was involved in promoting. She was not a race director, but helped organize a big charity run. And she's like, "Hey, when are you going to sign up for a race?" And I was like, "Man, I have no interest in that. Right? I'm just doing
paid to do something I don't like to do."
right. And man, I signed up for a race, and that was it. I was hooked.
Kris, you mentioned you got a late start to running, and it was from a rough breakup and other things going on in your life.
Yeah.
Two questions: is how long ago was that? To kind of put a timestamp on how long you've been in the space, but also when did you drop the kung fu to run? Like when did that transition happen?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So, so that was 2009. So it's been it's been a long time. Kung Fu was awesome. Like, met some amazing people, and really good experience. But what I realized through the course of that was, like, I was doing the Kung Fu to try to get back in shape, and I realized, like, you don't get in shape doing Kung Fu, right? And so I spent about 4 years in that world, and then really transitioned into the running after that. So it was maybe 4 or 5 years.
Oh yeah, that's a decent commitment to it for sure.
Yeah.
Can I admit that anyone saying they do kung fu, I cannot not think in my head everyone was kung fu fighting. So I've been saying that nonstop. Right now, I'm trying to keep it calm, but like this is the only thing I can think about.
running on loop in your head.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it's annoying.
Hey Kris, thanks for the update on how you got into the space. I had a question about what you've been up to for the last couple of years. I was trying to preface it with the fact that we just saw each other in Javelina 100. Actually, I'm wearing the shirt from because I was a pacer at Javelina 100, but I'm wearing the shirt. And Simon was there too, but I don't think you guys knew each other at that moment. So,
Nope.
but we did see each other. You were pacing, you were crewing for somebody, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're up to and how you wound up at Javelina?
Yeah, so I was there pacing and crewing my girlfriend Casey. She ran the 100K. So that was her longest distance. She was a pro OCR racer for a long time, and then kind of got into ultra running, and 50 mile distance was sort of her thing, and so she signed up for Javelina, and so I was just there supporting her, paced her for the last loop, the last 20 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Javelina is a great race, great time. So what have I been up to since what I've been up to? Back in 2019, I took a little bit of a sabbatical, and came up with this crazy idea. I was Brian. This is, I think, when you and I originally met. I was traveling and just doing some running and kind of doing the dirtbag running sort of thing, and came up with this idea to create an app for people to for runners to find each other, and kind of a search engine for group runs. And so I started building that in 2019. Then COVID happened in 2020, and that sort of derailed what I was working on. And but that's kind of where Group Run Finder came from, and so that's what I've been working on for the past couple of years.
GroupRunFinder.com. Tell us a little bit more about it. Like, how does it work? How can you upload runs? Can I upload my Thursday night Independence Run and Hike, which is a shameless plug for the running store here in Carbondale? But can I upload?
Please
our run.
Yeah. So the idea it's essentially a search engine for group runs, right? So I was traveling. I was on the road for about 2 years, and I was kind of scratching my own itch. Like I was trying to connect with other runners in places I was traveling to, or that I didn't know anyone. And essentially, you go in, you upload your group run details, and then you can go on the site and you can search if you're looking for a 5K trail run, no drop, lots of vert, or whatever it is you're looking for. You can search based on that, and just trying to, like I said, scratching my own itch, trying to find other runners, and have an easy way to find run groups.
Kris, is it location based? Can I be visiting, I don't know, Simon in San Diego and pull up Group Run Finder and find some from my proximity runs in that area?
Yep, 100%. So when you go to the site, it knows where you are, and so it will show you things that are close to you. Yeah.
And how many runs are already logged in there? What's that library look like currently, roughly, if you have an idea?
Uh, I've got a few hundred runs in there right now. I'd like to have more for sure. But yeah, it's probably 400 or 500 runs right now.
So this isn't like a race calendar type of thing, right? This is more like your Tuesday burger and a beer type of run that happens every Tuesday at the same location,
Yep.
probably the same time of day. It's more than likely the same distance, roughly each time, roughly 5-6 miles. I'm taking a guess at these things,
Yeah.
but it's that type of group run, right? Correct?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not race stuff. This is all, you know, run at a brewery, run at a restaurant, run at a bar, that kind of stuff. There's no race. This isn't like competitive kind of stuff.
Great. And how do you go in there and load a run if I like my local Independence Run and Hike Thursday night run?
Yeah, so you go in, you sign up, create an account, and then I've got a process for you to put all your run details in. So, distance, is it all of the details around that? So is it no drop? Is there is there drinks or like food or something afterwards? So you put all that stuff in, and then yeah, um, once you put that stuff in, we have a process where you approve it, and and then it shows up in the search results.
Are you a software guy? Did you code for this?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been software for 30 years. I've been in the software business for 30 years. Yeah, long, very, very, very long time.
And curious, so what would you say is the advantage of using this over, say, heading to Facebook and going to the San Diego local running club or something where people might be posting their group run?
Yeah, the main advantage. Well, there's a couple. One is, if let's say I'm coming to San Diego, I've never been there before. I don't know what to look for. Right? There's a lot of that stuff on Facebook, but I don't know. I don't know what to search for on Facebook. And the other thing is being able to search for specific, like, hey, I'm looking for a road run, or I'm looking for a ladies only run, or something like that, right? And you can't search for that on Facebook.
What about Kris? I get the idea. Like, if I was visiting Simon, it knows where I'm at, or the app knows my location based off of the phone, yada yada yada, and it could pull up the runs in that area local to me. But say I'm planning ahead. I'm going to be in San Diego next week. How do I view the runs that are available in San Diego today while I'm in Colorado?
Yeah, so there's literally there's a search bar. You just literally type in San Diego Tuesday night, 5K, and it will show you everything in San Diego that matches that. So, yeah.
Do you have? It sounds like you mentioned that you have 100 group runs already plugged in there. Is there a more predominant area like the area that you're in the Front Range of Colorado that has a little more growth to it because you're more local to the area?
Yeah, so there's sort of there's kind of two areas. When I started building this, I was living in Georgia. A lot of connections to the running scene there, and I was spending a lot of time out here in Colorado, racing and that kind of stuff. And so Colorado and Georgia are probably more represented than other places, and that's just because I knew all of the group run organizers, and it was real easy for me to pull that stuff in. So yeah, it's heavily kind of Colorado and Georgia based right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the issue, right? Like you need to have a critical mass of enough run in that area and enough runner using that. Otherwise, if I don't know, like someone lives in Paris and there's literally nothing, then there's no point using the app. But if there's no point using the app, then people don't put their run there. So reaching critical mass is probably what's the hardest for sure.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. It's a two-sided marketplace, right? So, an organizer is not going to want to invest the time to put their run in if they know folks aren't going to show up, and folks aren't going to want to spend their time trying to find a run if there's nothing in there. So it's a bit of a challenge that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if we compare to races, ultra sign up is very successful, I think, at least in the US, because basically every race is on there. And because of that, then every runner goes on there to find their race. So it's, you need to have both ends, like you say, which is challenging for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to make those connections for sure.
I'm curious, you've been running that for now, 5 years? So any learnings and improvement that you've made in the past few years that have helped you be more successful with this?
Yeah, I mean, again, so I started building this thing in late 2019. Original launch date was March 15th, 2020. Right. So,
bad timing.
Yeah, it was real bad timing, right? COVID, the pandemic started early in March. I think the lockdowns officially started on the 17th, right? So it was a real it was real tough, and I mean, essentially every group run on the planet stopped overnight, right? And so I had to kind of put the thing on the shelf for a bit. I in hindsight would have done things a little differently, right? I would have maybe leaned in a little harder, but I kind of had to wait and see what was going to happen.
At the same time, I feel that running is getting more and more popular. So hopefully you're picking up on that, kind of the tail end of everyone start baking or running during the pandemic. And when group runs started again, maybe you saw more flow to your app.
People were baking during the pandemic?
It was the two things that people would do, running or baking.
Really? I guess I'm still running because I wasn't baking.
Yeah, what I think is that you were running, Brian. Yes.
Yeah, I did quite a bit of baking during the pandemic.
Kris, what does the outreach look like, and how are you trying to grow it? I mean, other than word of mouth, I mean, is there some other outreach outlets that you're using? Hopefully the 26 listeners of our podcast can put in their group runs. So maybe you'll have 20 more group runs in there, but who knows?
It's a lot of just talking to running store owners and, folks that are organizing group runs. It's a lot of breweries and restaurants and bars and places like that, and just trying to get their stuff into the into my database.
And the database, is it, let's say we at the run group or whatever, we have a Tuesday evening run every week at 7. Do they have to input that information every single week, which is kind of time consuming, or do you just put we meet every Tuesday 7 p.m. and hopefully they do it that time that you show up.
Right. Yeah. So it's just one time, but you don't have to do it every week. It's one time. You can, if you have a run that's every Thursday, it's weekly, it's bi-weekly, it's monthly. Like you can put all that kind of stuff in. Yeah. And then the I guess the caveat is it actually going to happen? But yeah, you put it in one time, and if that changes, you can update that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's a one time.
Yeah, I feel the second part is the hard part because you think about putting that information when you're creating the run, but when you stop for whatever reason, it's not necessarily top of mind to actually go and deactivate it.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a way like for someone to report and say, hey, like this group run doesn't happen anymore?
We do have a way to do that. It's right now it's kind of manual. You have to let us know so we can change that. I'm working on some new functionality using AI that kind of helps make that a little easier. But yeah, it's a pretty manual process right now.
And have you entered yourself group run? So for example, I know at some point meetups like meetup.com was kind of decently popular for that kind of thing. Actually, like in my area, that's what you would do. So
Yep.
have you gone, say, in San Diego meetup, then you look at the group run, and then you yourself are putting the information on your app or website so that people would be able to cross-reference?
Yeah, so that's kind of how we started, right? So I built this thing, and I knew I needed to get some runs in there so people would use it, and that's what we did. We went out to Facebook and Meetup and some of those kind of places, just looking at running store websites, and pulled all that stuff in.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think as it grows, it'll be really beneficial. I know when I go out of town, I use a couple different resources to find trails and/or groups to run with. So I think as it grows, it could be a real big benefit to the running community, especially that traveling running community that goes out of town or visits someone else, or even for the upcoming holidays, right? What Where would you define success at in this business? Like where does it end for you? Like when do you think you would move on to something different or put your energy somewhere else?
Well, this is sort of a passion project for me, right? It's something I genuinely believe in creating community and running, and I don't know if it really ever ends. Like, I don't think this is, I'm not going to sell Group Run Finder to someone. Success is just really seeing people getting connected in the community, and I'll keep the thing going for as long as that's happening.
That's great. I guess I want to go back to Javelina for just for a minute here and talk about your girlfriend's success. So she finished her 100K.
She did, yeah. She finished.
Excellent. Well, congrats to both of you for helping her out. What's next for yourself and your girlfriend as far as events go? Anything coming up?
So nothing this year. I got some pretty ambitious race plans next year. I'm probably going to go back a little bit of a homecoming, go back to Georgia, and I got Cruel Jewel is on the list for me. And then I was pretty heavily involved with Trans Rockies for a long time, and next year is the final year of Trans Rockies. I think it's the 17th year, so it's going to be last year. So headed back there in August to run that, and I kind of tricked Casey into signing up for the 3 days. So she's gonna go back and do another 100K. So yeah, that's what's coming up.
What is the deal with Trans Rockies? Why is it the end of Trans Rockies? I'm not familiar with that story.
So, are you familiar with the race with Trans
Yeah,
Rockies?
yeah, it's right here in my backyard.
Yeah. So, I think it's just I don't know the exact reasons. I think it's just kind of time to. I mean, the race directors are just moving on to other things, and it's just time to call it. But I mean, they've been doing it for a really long time, and it's an amazing, life changing event. Um, but yeah, I couldn't tell you why they're
I didn't know if it
they're
was a permitting issue or some other unforeseen issue or something along those lines. But I
no.
have heard a lot of I have heard a lot of success with their program, and gosh, I think I have friends that have proposed on the Trans Rockies route. Um,
Yeah,
and celebrated their honeymoon on the Trans Rockies route. I mean, there's just a lot of great stories from that event itself, and so
yeah,
surprised to see it go. That's all, really.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
curious.
think it's. I think it's just a strategic decision for the business. I mean, they've got a pretty large race series, and yeah, but
Yeah, I'm
tell.
curious for anyone listening. Could you describe the event a little bit? Not everyone might be familiar with it.
Trans Rockies.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a 6 day stage race. It's here in Colorado in the up in the Sawatch range of the Rockies. Starts in Buena Vista and ends in Beaver Creek. So it's there are two races. So there's a 3 day race and a 6 day race. The 6 day is 200K total. So it's it's about 20 miles a day, and it's just man, it's kind of a party that moves through the mountains. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
And you say
Supported
they have other
stages.
races? You said?
Yeah, so they've got the folks that own the race series. They're based up in Canada. I think they're in Alberta, and they've got a big race series up there. They've got another race, a stage race that's in Moab called Moab Rocks. So they've got a bike race series. They've got a bunch of foot races. So they got a ton of stuff going on. And Trans Rockies is kind of it was their big foot race here in the U.S.
Well, it'd be interesting if somebody takes that over. Kris, we appreciate your time this evening. Thanks so much for sharing your story and sharing about GroupRunFinder.com. GroupRunFinder.com. I just said it twice intentionally so that you can go there and find your run and or upload your run, your group run, your favorite group run, upload your favorite group run and go find one on the site. Where else could we find you at, Kris?
Yeah, again, GroupRunFinder.com is a good way to find me. LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect. LinkedIn.com/in/Kris Cargile, and that's Kris with a K, KrisCargile. You can also find me at KrisCargile.com.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening, and we wish you the best success. Again, go to GroupRunFinder.com, upload your runs, and find one for yourself for next week, for the holidays, when you're visiting Aunt Sally.
For Thanksgiving.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks, guys.